Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2019, and you're watching WGAN-TV live at 5. We have a special week. All this week is Matterport Workshop 3.0 training. We're super excited to have Amir Frank with us all week. Hey, Amir, good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Dan.
Good. So Amir is a marketing manager at Matterport. He's in his previous role was in Matterport support for 3 years. He's exactly the right person to be doing Matterport Workshop 3.0 training. We've had already 2 great shows, Monday part 1, Tuesday part 2, and now we're up to day 3, part 3. Just in case you just kind of want to have a little bit of, what were the other shows about on Monday, June 10th, Amir covered Matterport cloud settings, the icons at the top of the screen, the model page, and took some questions for me. And then on Tuesday, Amir took us through the first part of Matterport Showcase Edit. We might think of that as Matterport Workshop 3.0 or Showcase 3.0 Edit or Matterport Showcase Edit. Including reviewing start position, scanning, hiding, 360 views, and we're up to today. What are we up to today, Amir?
Today we're going to be looking at capturing snapshots using the labels feature and taking measurements.
Cool. So you got 3 things. Plus, if you all want to ask questions, just write down here in the bottom right of the We Get Around Network forums, a little box. It's just click on it and it brings you live into the show. You'll kind of be in our virtual green room, and then we can bring you on the show to ask questions. Amir, just before you get started, I just wanted to mention to our viewers that later in the show, I'll talk about how to get a free Matterport 3D tour to be able to play with in Matterport Workshop 3.0, just in case, let's say you've ordered a Matterport camera and it hasn't shown up yet, or you're thinking about getting a Matterport camera, but you'd like to play with the editing a model. Stay tuned. We'll tell you how to get a free model from the We Get Around Network forum. Amir, looking forward to what you got. As I've said in the other shows, we're assuming that I am a newbie. I have not used Workshop previously, except my knowledge now of Monday and Tuesday, and you're building on that. So please do take me through Matterport Showcase Edit. Where would you like to begin?
All right. So let me start by just sharing my screen so you can see that. And here we are. Hopefully you can see that all right. Brilliant. So as we said previously, yesterday we saw this. This is your account. We're just going to go ahead, dive into a model, and here we are. Again, this is the thumbnail and start position that we just set up yesterday, and I can click the load and then click the pencil icon to edit, or I can just go ahead and click the pencil icon if I know that I want to just go directly into the edit mode of Showcase. And here we are. So when you have that pencil icon activated, you've got your, toolbar over here on the right side. We covered these first 3 yesterday, and we're going to go ahead and just get started with capturing snapshots. Click on the photo icon, looks like a little camera. Just tap that. You've got your thirds line here, so you can properly position and then put things where you want them.
And do I have to hide those lines so that they won't be in my snapshot?
No, these are just guides to help you compose your image. So a lot of photographers know the rule of thirds. This is just kind of helping you with that.
Okay, and could you give me just what's the rule of thirds?
Rule of thirds says basically that for a more interesting and creative shot, you want your subject basically to be at one of these lines, ideally even maybe over here where they intersect, something like that. So it's maybe a little bit more obvious with portraits. For example, you would have the person's eyes be at that top thirds line as opposed to right in the middle. With this, not only do they help place the subject, but also with lines. So you may see that the cabinets here, because of the perspective and barrel distortion of lenses, just very common to photography, I can move this around to make that a straight line. So now it's perfectly parallel with this guide, and I know that this is it minimizes the barrel distortion.
And if I don't want the guide, the grid guide, can I turn that off?
I think there might be a way in the settings to turn that off right there.
Show grid or hide grid. Okay, great.
Right.
So that was under the
under the little gear in the top
icon.
right corner here. Yeah.
What else is there? There's something else there. Include measurement labels and matter tag posts in photos. That's for 2D photos only.
Correct.
So if I wanted to take
this will include, if you have matter tags and you want them actually included as part of the image, or if you have measurements that you've laid out and you want that measurement to be included as part of the image, you can turn this on, and those assets will be included in the 2D image. And just, you brought up 2D photos. What that refers to is this right here. This being the 2D photo option, what I'm seeing in this viewport is what I capture. This is the 360 photo, which basically means I'm gonna capture the entire 360.
And then just back on this nomenclature, sometimes you refer to photos and sometimes you refer to snapshots. Is photos equal snapshots? Is that this?
Yes.
One and the same?
Yes.
And so there's kind of two types of photos or two types of snapshots. One is the two-dimensional, that's the icon to the left where you're pointing now.
Right.
2D
photo or snapshot.
2D, and then 3D photos or
360.
360,
yeah, 360.
In our space would probably be.
It's going to capture this entire panorama. Everything that you can see as you turn around here, that's going to be downloaded into a single image. It does obviously appear flat on your screen. We can look at how that looks, and you can see the amount of distortion in one of those images. But those are really intended for posting to Facebook and things like that.
Okay. Can you put the grid back on? I think I actually like that better.
Yeah, I also, you got to be in the 2D mode. And there we go. Now you can activate the grid, and I'm going to turn this off so it does not capture labels. So yeah, you can turn the grid on or off. And once you have this positioned, you can, down here is a zoom option. So you can actually zoom in or zoom out. You can either grab this or press the minus and plus keys. So you can see when I'm zoomed out all the way, this is 70%, there's going to be, you can see as I turn, there's going to be a considerable amount of distortion. And that's just because of the camera basically being zoomed out so far. Same holds true for photography, if you're familiar with that. Wide angle lenses will have a much more distorted view, whereas the telephoto lenses will have a more narrow kind of view, and that is why. So you can see.
Was there a place to get it back to full screen? I guess what I would consider 100% on that slider?
So this is your little reset button.
Reset. Okay, that's what I'm looking
for. Tap that to zip it back to 100. But also when you use the plus and minus, it goes in stages. So it's 110, 120, 130, and so on.
So I don't have a lens on my camera that's 120% or one that's 80%. Can you make any kind of translation for me when I take that snapshot? And I guess it's going to be even harder because digital and film is different, but I'm assuming I have a digital camera and that I have it set on 100% for the snapshot. Is that like a 52 millimeter? Is that like an 18 millimeter?
That is a very good question. There isn't really a great way of drawing a parallel between those two types of photography, because this is an image that essentially has already been captured and you're just grabbing a portion of it.
Okay.
It's not the same as a lens on digital sensor or film.
Or how about when it was originally captured?
So when it was originally captured, like 100%, right? Originally captured, the closest we can come up with is looking at, I think if I remember correctly, it's the vertical aspect ratio as opposed to the horizontal, because it depends on the width of the screen and so on and so forth. But from what I understand, and I've spoken to the engineers about this, the vision engineers who do this day in and day out, you're looking at roughly a 17 millimeter lens.
Okay. So that's sort of what we're looking at now, is a snapshot before we've taken the picture, taken at the equivalent of about 17 millimeter.
Yeah.
17 millimeter. And I shouldn't even ask whether that's like full frame camera or not full frame, or because
that would be full frame.
Full frame.
Yeah. 17 traditional 35 millimeter film, 17 millimeter frame.
Okay, good. So it's a pretty wide angle shot that the Matterport camera is shooting, and I'm guessing if we actually went a little bit wider than that, we would start to experience the distortion. So I guess you got to be really careful if you want to make it any wider, because then you're going to, like the microwave over to the left there looks.
Yeah, and you can see how wide this microwave looks from this angle. And as soon as I move it towards the center, you can see that, oh, now it actually looks more like a normal microwave.
Okay, so we have to be
off to the sides.
Yeah, be really careful about using the minus, because I could really make things look way distorted, and probably if I'm outside, I could get away with a wide shot that was wider than
you can see
100%. Yeah.
Okay. It just doesn't look.
All right. So as you go through the snapshots, maybe we'll see that there's a time where that actually will make some sense to make it bigger or smaller.
So yes, precisely. It also just depends on I guess what you as the photographer, essentially, as you're capturing these snapshots, what you want to relay to your visitors.
Well, granted that I'm a photographer who bought a Matterport camera in July 2014, but I recognize that there are many new Matterport service providers that have not been a photographer first. They've been something else in their life. So I'd still like, as we go through this, is if we have an opportunity to help bring along someone that is not necessarily a photographer and these terms are new, is to go slow enough that they can follow along with us too.
Absolutely.
On some of these things. Okay.
Absolutely. So you've chosen essentially your zoom level. You've decided whether to include assets or not include assets using the settings. And you've decided whether you're capturing a 2D snapshot or the full 360-degree panorama. And once you've done all that, you can just tap the capture button up here in the center, and it'll go through it. And there it says photo save down here.
Okay. And excuse me, but before you go any further, I'm just dying to know this. We have these icons on the right, and we have a little black bar on the left. When we capture that picture, is it capturing the picture to the edge of the black that we see, or is it capturing the picture all the way to the right underneath the icons?
It does not include these black bars on the left and on the right. So
that's where the image stops.
Right. It's up to this. Clearly, none of this is going to be a clean image. We can look at this in a little bit here, but none of these icons are going to be included. Everything you see here is not part of the snapshot that's being captured. So
Great.
even these lines,
when I'm doing a snapshot, I can actually see exactly what's being captured, what's in the snapshot. There's not any extra image that I can't see because there's a icon menu on the right, for example. I literally see the entire area.
Yeah. Everything that you see here, up to this little black bar on the left and this little black bar between the toolbar and the image itself. That kind of indicates the far left and right edges of your snapshots.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So while you're in this mode, you're free to continuously move around, capturing the snapshots that you want to include. And you can just move it around, press the capture button, and there's another one.
You didn't use your vertical grid there to square that up.
No, I did not. I'm just doing this a little bit faster than I probably should.
Okay, but normally you would actually...
So you would want to take your time to make sure that this is, you know, nice and
that
square.
the verticals are vertical. Best practice, make the verticals vertical. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can go out to the dollhouse mode or the dollhouse view and move your model around to capture the full dollhouse. Zoom out a little bit and capture this as well to include an image, as well as the floor plan view can also be used. In this, the floor plan view is where the labels come in. We're going to get to that in a bit. Had I selected this toggle to include my assets, my labels, if I had any, would be included in this snapshot.
Well, I'm going to ask you, once we do some labels and once we do some measurements, then to come back to snapshots so that we can see how the snapshots and measurements look.
Yeah.
Excuse me, how the labels and measurements look in a snapshot.
Yes, absolutely. We can.
But we haven't learned labels and measurements yet, so let's put that off for a moment.
We're not there quite yet.
Okay.
What I do want to do is capture, and it doesn't really matter which one. This is good enough. I'm just going to capture a 360 photo as well. You can see that the black bars disappear because, again, this is capturing the entire 360 degrees, so it doesn't matter really where I am. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go ahead and press capture.
Now, for the purpose of social media, let's say we take this 360 and we want to post it to Facebook. What's going to show up on Facebook? Is it the windows that we're looking at in the middle of the picture? Do we have control over what actually ends up being on Facebook as the thumbnail? As
the initial thumbnail where the user starts, yes, and that is actually something that you can control as you're posting to Facebook. Facebook will ask you, what do you want to have as the start location of this panorama?
Will it default to the view that we just shot?
That's a good question. It's a bit dependent on Facebook, but I do believe that it will default to what you see in the viewport when you click the capture button.
Viewport. I think I heard you say viewport.
Yeah, when I say viewport, I'm just referring to this square that you see that is displayed in front of you. So
okay, so it might be best practice to compose the 360 the way you want it in case social media defaults to the thumbnail view of what we see in the viewport.
Correct. Okay. Correct. So certainly best practice, not just to willy-nilly take a picture of this, for example, but compose it and then capture. In the very least, then you can again just set it in Facebook. But if you can do it here and have Facebook just automatically know where to start, that's probably best practice. So advised. So once
do you happen to know, does Instagram now support 360s that you know of?
That is a really good question. No, I don't believe they do. There are tools that I've seen that can take a 360 and break it up into a number of images, so that with Instagram, you can just tap and it'll go to the next image in the series. So and that's kind of how they get around that and show you the full 360. But it's not the way Facebook does it, allowing a visitor to really take control and navigate to where they want to see in the 360.
Okay, I imagine that'll change over time. So
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you have captured these snapshots, you can go ahead and X and just close out of the tool. But you will find them here in the Photos tab. So if I tap here, you can see the most recent snapshots that I've captured here at the top. You'll also notice that they are named by time and date. You can certainly go ahead and change this name just by clicking here. When I roll over this area with my mouse, you can see that the little underline appears. So
could you go ahead and change one of those so we could see that?
Yeah.
I can see that the snapshots that we reviewed yesterday, Tuesday, June 11th, 2019, have names on them, and the ones that you just did now have dates on them. So we could quickly see, and I imagine that the most current image is to the far top left.
Yes, the most current one captured is to the far top left, minus the start location itself.
Okay, now I'm totally confused, because if we look at that second image, it's got the hole-in-one flag.
Yes, this is your start. This is the start location that we set up yesterday. And because we just captured this yesterday, it has yesterday's time and date.
Ah, okay, good.
We did not change this yesterday to say what it is.
Okay.
So minus the start location. The start location thumbnail will always be very top left. It'll have the thumbnail and the start location. After that comes in sequential order by date.
And and this may be something you referenced in another show, but today the thumbnail and the start location are one and the same, but it's displaying the thumbnail and the start location as two separate snapshots.
Yes.
And I think you alluded to, at some point, Matterport will allow us to have the thumbnail be different than the starting point.
Yes, that's the idea. So
thus, that's the reason we're seeing
happen, but
yeah, but that's probably the reason we're seeing a thumbnail and a start location as the two first images.
Separate,
when today they're literally identical, but likely something's going to change on that.
Correct. Okay. Correct. And one day we'll be able to choose a thumbnail, and it could be an outdoor view, hero shot of the home, for example, and then the start location be at the front door. Just an example.
Okay. Not to, but to ask, the hero location might be the front. Is that the front that the Matterport camera shot, or the front meaning we were able to upload some professionally shot images to be the hero image?
At this time, from my understanding, only what's been shot with Matterport and Matterport supported cameras.
Okay, so we might go outside, shoot a 360 view, and use that 360 view as the thumbnail, even if we want to maybe start the tour itself inside the house.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can do that at any time. Like I said at the very beginning of this series, that when you're scanning, you're really developing a 3D model, not a tour, not a walkthrough. So that's what this part is. Now we're actually creating and developing the actual walkthrough.
Okay. So these are the photos. I could imagine you're going to show us. You showed us how to change the name. The next logical thing would be, how do I download those photos and use and get them?
So there's a couple ways to download this, and we briefly touched on this yesterday. If you want to name them, that's totally fine. You can go ahead and do that. But again, it's not obligated to name them. To download it, one option is to select the photo using this little circle button in the corner. Unless you're hovering with your mouse over that little circle, what you're going to do by clicking on it is just open it up larger. So this is like just a larger view of that snapshot. From here, I can download just this one snapshot and then use the arrow keys left and right to move to my next snapshot. I can also use the thumbnails down here, as well as these little arrows at the very ends of the thumbnail row at the bottom to move a bunch at a time.
Now, I know we covered this in the other show, but we should just at least point out in the top right of that particular thumbnail for dining room, that flag there is if you wanted to set this as the start location.
This as the start location. Delete this thumbnail or this snapshot, that is, or download the snapshot. So you have these three options as you're looking at individual snapshots. Or you can select multiple snapshots and download these three, for example, right now. What's going to happen here, there's a bit of a difference in how this works. When you just have, sorry, let me get rid of those. No. Deselect. Not working. When you have the thumbnails open in this view, the larger view, and you choose the download button, it's not going to ask you what resolution you want to download. It just automatically downloads in the highest resolution possible. So this image, let's say I want to download this, I'll press the download snapshot, and it just, there you saw it, it just downloads. If I select multiple snapshots to download and then press download, I get this window that asks me if I want to just download a web resolution. This is the lowest resolution available. Presentation slightly higher, and the maximum pixels. This is going to be slightly different depending on your snapshots.
Before you move off that slide, now our MLS accepts a different size. Can I change the size of the snapshots?
Well, you can certainly download at the maximum, and then once you've got the maximum downloaded, the highest resolution snapshot possible, you're welcome to use any kind of editing application to reduce the resolution or reconfigure the aspect ratio to match what your MLS requires.
But that's not I don't have that option within.
Yeah, you don't have that option in Matterport. Every MLS is going to be a little different. Some are very picky about what they get and what can be uploaded, and others have built-in software to automatically crop, change, reduce resolution, anything that they need to get done to your images as you're uploading. So it really depends on the MLS, and that's why we just offer these three simple options.
Okay.
So once I hit accept and I download all of these, or just the few that I have selected, they don't download instantly. In the background, it is processing all of these snapshots, gathering all the information into a single zip file, and then a link to download that zip file is emailed to you. So it's a little different. You're not going to just get a download instantly like you do when you just go into one of these and choose this download option.
Could you press that just so we see what happens on the screen, the download?
Yeah. So if you press this, it immediately downloads, and I can see that here, downloaded. Whereas if I was going to, can't unselect these for some reason. That's okay. Download.
But it should.
It'll be the same.
Had that button worked, what we would see is that either all images would toggle on or all images would toggle off.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I'm not sure. Previously, and I must be
the
running into some sort
it's the rule of demos. It's covered by the rule of demos of what happens.
Right, exactly. But the difference is, as you said, is there's no difference if I only have one selected or multiple selected. If it's in this view, when I choose this download option, I'm going to get this window. I want to download, let's say, the max pixels, and I hit accept. It says that, okay, we're generating the zip file, and you'll get that emailed. You can see that up here.
Okay. I may need to ask my wife to do a cameo on the show, because I can hear her in the kitchen. So sorry, I'm doing the show out of the house today, and while we're traveling, and the kitchen happens to be close to where I set up. So maybe she'll pop her head in and go hello. Because I can certainly hear the ambient sound, so I apologize for the mice that you hear in the background.
No worries at all.
Okay.
So that is downloading the snapshots that you've captured. You can see here is the 360 view that I captured. So you can see a significant difference between how a normal 2D snapshot looks, just a square icon, and the full 360 is twice the width. If I tap here, you can see how distorted this image looks when you look at it as a 2:1 aspect ratio, flat image on your screen. Until you put it up as a 360 in a window like what Facebook offers, or other applications, and you just see a portion of it, and you can turn around and whatnot. These look radically distorted.
Yeah. So for anyone that has never seen a flat version of a 360 photo, that's what a 360 photo looks like before it lives on a platform that lets it be spherical.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
So here too, you have the option of downloading or deleting from this icon.
Okay.
So that is downloading. Let's go back into Showcase. Once we have captured our snapshots, just to recap, you can go back here to the Photos button to download and you take advantage of those snapshots outside of Matterport.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about labels. This is the label button, and I can tap that to open up my labels panel. And labels are going to be visible only in the floor plan view mode. So you can go ahead and just preempt that by clicking the floor plan view right there. I can move this around. I can zoom in and out. You can already see that when I have this label tool open and I hover my mouse over different parts, you can see little green borders. It is doing its best to automatically identify the different rooms in this space. So sometimes it's not going to be terribly accurate. Like in this case, it doesn't really isolate the kitchen alone, which is right here, and maybe a living room over here. It just kind of grabs the whole thing. It is somewhat irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect where the label gets put. You can adjust that any way you want. So I'm just going to zoom in here, hit the add button. You can see I have a little kind of a fist icon right now with my mouse, and I'm moving my label over, and I'm just going to place it here and title this living room. As soon as I start typing, it's already giving me options that are very common, so I can just select living room, and there's my label. As I hover over the label, it expands. This lets me edit with the pencil icon or delete with the trash can icon. I can also grab it. You can see the cursor again turns into that little hand. I can grab it and move it around. If I don't want it there, I can move it over here so it's more centered.
So given this one has this box that's around a very large space, could you put two labels in this area, or is it limited to the one?
Yeah, so I can take another label, and same green box is selected. And now I'm just going to put kitchen.
Okay.
So I'm going to grab that kitchen icon or kitchen label and place it in the center of the kitchen. And there it is. So I can also, you can see them start to add up over here in the labels panel. I have these three dots that allow me to hide this label and delete the label.
What would be an example of why I'd want to create a label and then hide it?
You may have, for example, we talked about the snapshots and being able to see the labels. So you may want to include some labels and not others in this particular snapshot, and then have another snapshot include others and not the opposite. So you can kind of go back and forth.
So I do have a global tool for the snapshots to say hide all labels. This is letting us hide individual labels.
Right,
so if I had 50 labels that I really did want, 50 different snapshots that I did want the labels to show up, but I did have one that I didn't want the labels. This, I can control the individual snapshot.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So you can control the snapshots, which one includes assets and which one doesn't. And you can also include in this labels panel which specific label is shown when you are choosing to see those labels.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. You just kind of keep moving your way along. And the thing is with these labels is for the visitor, they're only going to be visible in the floor plan view. You can see if I go to Dollhouse, I can no longer see these labels. Even if I try and completely flatten out as much as I can, they're not visible until I go to floor plan view.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so same thing if I'm in the, I'll just preview this here. I probably should have published first. Okay, so I'll preview that. And let's see here. Oh, sorry. Forgot one very, very important thing. Good thing this happened. In the 3 dots, we mentioned these 3 dots yesterday. You have the option, the settings option down here. Tap that and then press on advanced. And here you have the option of whether your visitors can see the dollhouse or not see the dollhouse, can see or not see the floor plan view, the highlight reel once that's created, we'll get to that tomorrow, and labels. So if I turn this on and now go ahead and hit publish, I can go back to the preview. And now when I'm in the floor plan view, I can see my labels.
Let's take one more look at that. I'm sure that this will just save countless messages to support going, I've added my labels in floor plan view. I can't see them. What do I need to do? So this was really important on your 3 dots there.
Yep, exactly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the default setting, which is this. And I'm going to publish this. So I've added a label. I'm going to add another one here. Call this one dining room. Put that there. Okay, and publish that. And I want to go ahead and preview this. And they disappear. My labels are gone. I have my dollhouse view. I have my floor plan view, but I'm not seeing my labels. The problem in this case is that labels in general are not activated yet. So what you want to do is you go back into the edit mode, go down here to the 3 buttons at the bottom. This allows you to access the settings. And in settings, you have presentation, units, and advanced. Under the advanced menu item, you have the labels menu item that does need to be activated. By default, this is turned off. So if you're going to use labels, make sure you come in here into settings and enable these labels. And once you do that, go ahead and hit publish. And that way, your visitors can see your labels.
Great. Can you take us into that presentation button?
Yes.
While we're in that 3 dots.
Yeah, presentation. So this is what we talked about a little bit yesterday. For anybody that missed it, you can refer to that session. This refers to the details that are in this tab. So in this details tab, you have the contact phone number, email, contact name. All this information is going to be displayed in this area here. So if I add all that detail, I can hit more and I'll be able to see all of that, including the address of the space, person who is either the agent who's selling it or me as the photographer. And the presentation option allows you to determine how much of that detail is shown. So if I go back in here, I want to see everything, meaning the contact name, the contact email, the contact phone number, all that detail, or do I just want a compact view, which just comes up as you saw just now. I had to click the more option to get it to kind of fly down. Or do I just not want that kind of panel, that title panel in the top left corner to display at all?
Now I'm confused. I'm sorry. So does everything mean the panel will always display open everything, or does it mean that it displays with a caret that you can open and see everything?
Everything by default, I believe, we can double check this right now, but I'm pretty sure that everything means it will come up with everything. So let's just go ahead and do this real quick. And contact email. And contact name. Okay, I can even add a small summary. As well as a URL, let's say 123 mainstreet.com. And that's about it. So we'll go ahead and save that information. Oh, where is that? There we go. Okay. So we're going to save that. We're going to go back to the media tab. I'm going to go into my edit option here. Now that I have all this selected, I want to go into settings, have everything selected, go ahead and publish. And if you remember yesterday, we talked about ideally you would copy the share link and open up a new incognito window, paste it in there. This way you see what your visitors are going to see. So, okay.
So that answers that question, because you had selected show full information. So it actually still shows closed, and then there's an option to show more.
There's the option, right, the option to show more, and this will include all of the information that I entered in there, including the summary up here and the web address that you can link to the landing page. But it does not, it is not open by default.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to double check, but I do believe that there's a parameter allowing you to have it open all the way by default.
Okay.
Also, I will have to look into that, though. That's something that I'm not sure if we have that parameter.
Maybe we could save parameters for tomorrow too.
We'll save that. Yeah, we'll talk about parameters tomorrow. Yeah. So if I click on more, you can see that I do have all this information. And if I come over here and click on compact, hit publish, the showcase data in the background is updated. I'll go back to my incognito window and hit refresh. And now when I hit more, I would assume that it comes up with just the summary and not the name, email address, phone number, and so on.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the difference between those two options, compact and everything. Okay, none. We'll publish that, and then hit refresh again. And I imagine that this, well, there you go. You don't see, it's completely gone, just as you would kind of assume none would mean. There's nothing there. So this is a little cleaner look at the model, I guess.
Okay, and then one last question. When you go back to this view, you had covered this briefly yesterday, but to the left of the pencil, the Matterport icon, in theory, you could have just pressed that to see what the viewer would see, but you chose to use the link and go to incognito. Why was that?
So you can use this to see a preview, but to get a more accurate sense of what your visitors are going to see, I recommend using an incognito window. And the reason is because in this view, I'm signed in as me, as my admin account or my collaborator account. So I have these privileges that a visitor would not have. So I may be able to see things here that they won't be able to see in an incognito window. For example, if this for some reason is not shared, if this is locked, this is just a slightly more obvious example, but I can use the share link to open up a new tab. This is not an incognito, this is just a new tab. Paste my share link in here. Again, this is assuming that the share link is out there in the world and I've made some edits and maybe made it private for whatever reason. Because I'm an admin and because this is not an incognito window, I can still access this model. And to me, I would question whether possibly an agent contacts me and says, hey, I don't see the model, it's giving me this oops message. I'll load up my web browser and I'll go to the share link and I'll say, it works for me, I'm not sure what's wrong. So this is why you really want to use an incognito window because now you notice that I locked and made my model private. If I refresh in an incognito window, I get this oops message. And now I say, okay, wait a minute. Clearly what you're telling me is accurate. You can't see it. Now let's try and go see what's going on. I'll go back to my model page, hopefully realize that number one, check whether it's public or not. Just first rule of thumb. And if not, clearly go ahead and make it public. If there's anything else, then certainly contact the support team.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent example. You walked us through that yesterday, and I was glad to see you do it today. One would think it would have sunk in for me because I had the exact problem today using Vimeo, where I had a link, I could see it on my screen. I assumed when I shared it that others could see it, but I could see it on my computer because I was signed into the account, where for everyone else, it was actually set to private. So I think that's really helpful to understand. As you work, it might be helpful to use the Matterport preview that's underneath the icon to the left of the pencil. But before you make it available to everyone else, to go do that tip that you suggested of looking at the link in an incognito window.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, I found that to be very helpful.
All right. I think that brings us up to measurements.
Yes, indeed. So I'll go back into the edit to bring up my toolbar. And so now we have measurements. And this is used for so many different things. And you have two modes, kind of. There's your typical inside view mode, which is no different than the dollhouse as far as the measurements are concerned. And then the second one is the floor plan view mode. And the measurements that you lay down in the floor plan view will not be seen in the other modes. Likewise, the measurements that you lay down in the inside or dollhouse view cannot be seen in the floor plan view mode. This is a 2D mode, while the others are more of a 3D mode, so they're not interchangeable. So just keep that in mind when you're laying down measurements. So go ahead and tap or click the measurements icon here. And just as we added labels, you can press the add button up here to start adding measurements. This doesn't go away with the label one. With the label option, you remember we clicked add, we set it, and then we went back to click add and set another one, and so on and so forth. You go back and forth. With this measurements, once you click add, it's kind of in this adding mode, and you can draw multiple measurements. You don't have to keep going back and forth.
Okay.
So let's look at the floor plan view. This is the 2D option. I can just click and drag. So let me step out of that. Sorry. Add. Click once, drag your cursor, and then place it where you want. You can. I don't know if you can see this, Dan, but it's kind of snapping into this perfectly vertical line. Can you kind of see that snap? So this is.
I can see. It doesn't look like it's snapped quite yet, but if you released it, it'll snap vertical if it's within 5 degrees either way.
Yeah, basically. So I haven't clicked my mouse yet. I'm still kind of moving this thing
Yeah.
around. Let's try maybe a slightly longer line. There you can see that. So it kind of helps you.
Yes, yes. Okay. I could feel what was happening
Yeah,
where it was
but
trying to snap to
it's subtle,
perpendicular.
but it's, yeah, it's there. There's a very slight kind of snap to kind of help you draw a perfectly vertical or horizontal line in this view
Yeah,
mode.
I think that's terrific because it'd be really unusual that we would want to measure something that was 5 degrees to the left or right or 10
Right,
degrees
right,
or something.
exactly.
We really want to know perpendicular
Yeah.
measurement. Yeah.
Um, so go ahead and click a second time to lock that in. And now we have our first measurement, and you can see that here. It's 28 feet 3 inches. And we can just go ahead and capture another one, let's say from these windows over here. Again, it helps me by snapping there. So that's 39 feet 7 inches. And once I'm done, I can go ahead and press the escape key
What
on
what
my keyboard.
what if I start putting down a measurement and then I put the cursor in the wrong place? How do I
So
abort?
you can, so as I just did, I pressed the escape key on my keyboard.
Okay.
You can see that I'm no longer adding.
Okay.
Okay, it says add now. I can come here and either choose to delete via the item menu right here, the item in the menu on the panel,
Mhm.
or I can just hover over the measurement itself and choose the trash can icon if I want to delete this measurement. It'll ask me to confirm, and there you go. So if I misplace either one of my clicks, I can also just grab and move it, of course. So I want to make this my horizontal. Okay. And there you go. So you can, your mouse will turn to the little hand, the little grabby hand icon when it's over one of the endpoints, and you can just grab that and move it any way you want.
Okay. If you could drop a point, and let's drop it in the. Well, that's good. Let's fix that one. It's not. It doesn't look right. So you
Yeah.
want to.
So
You
this
went
one, I'm
back
just
and
going to
grabbed
grab
it
it.
and replaced it. Okay,
There
good.
you go.
Now let's say you. Let's be obvious here. If you drop a point in the black area for a moment, and you know that that's literally not where you meant to start. Okay. Now what? Hit
So,
escape. Is there something else I can do to stop that measurement? Or
oh,
no?
to just not to completely stop this, you can press the escape key on the keyboard, and then I'll just eliminate it.
If I hit the add button, would that have stopped it too?
I don't know that you can come out here and
Can't
no,
do that.
click
So you could
anything.
another option would be complete the measurement, let it show up, and then
Right.
go and then
You
use the
can,
tool to
yeah,
delete.
you can just complete the measurement and then hit the escape key.
Okay.
You have to get out of the adding kind of mode of the tool.
Okay.
Okay.
So are those for clarification? Are those viewable in Dollhouse?
These are not, because I placed them in the floor plan view. So when I go to the dollhouse, they will disappear.
But if I place the measurement within the Dollhouse view, then I'll see that measurement.
Only in the dollhouse or inside view, not in the floor plan view.
Could we see that? I mean, I'd like to, those are really high ceilings. I'd like to know how tall the ceiling is. That would be an
Yeah.
example.
So this is possibly maybe a better option for taking measurements from wall to wall or from floor to ceiling, because in the dollhouse or the inside view, you can do something that you can't do in the floor plan view. So let me show you that.
Okay.
So I'm in the dollhouse view here. Because the ceiling is with all these joists and whatnot, what I want to probably do is draw my line from the ceiling down to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that works. We may want to draw a couple lines just because of the fragmentation of the 3D mesh. May introduce some inaccuracy with the ceiling like this because it's not a flat ceiling. So what we can do is go to add, So now I'm adding, and I can come up here to the ceiling, and I can double click on the ceiling or double click on the floor to draw a line that is perpendicular to the surface on which I'm double clicking. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
So let me do this example. I guess down here I'll get a more vertical line because this is a nice flat surface. If I double click, it just automatically draws a line straight up from where I clicked, and oops, escape. I can move around and see that line from different angles. I can also go inside and see that line right there and kind of get a better idea. Let me move away a little bit.
So you could have drawn the line by tapping once on the floor and then taking it to the ceiling, but by double tapping, it automatically dropped a perpendicular.
Exactly. It automatically drops a perpendicular line to the surface on which I'm clicking. So same thing holds true for the walls. It makes it really easy to pick a wall surface, double click, and hit escape to get out of the adding tool.
And that tip only works in the dollhouse view.
In the dollhouse or inside view, only not in the floor plan view.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just a really good handy way of drawing a perfectly perpendicular line in these cases. If I were, let me show you the kind of contrast to that. If I were to add and just click and try to draw a line, oops.
Yeah, it's a problem because you really want to know the perpendicular measurement. What you just drawn has no functionality.
Yeah, it's very, very hard for me to know in this environment where the perfect straight line would be, and just double clicking is really the only way to really do it well. So you can see the difference in these measurements.
All right, so now you're going to get rid of it. You're going to delete that odd one. Okay, good. I happen to see the mesh icon in the bottom left. Can I drop points, lines in the mesh view?
You can, yeah.
And
the mesh view also allows you to draw points.
Is there a reason I'd want to be in the mesh view versus the dollhouse view?
Well, it might just be a little bit more accurate view of what it is you're measuring.
Okay.
You are measuring the 3D mesh. So when you are viewing the inside view like this, what you're seeing is really not the 3D mesh. You're seeing this kind of 2D 360 panorama overlaying that 3D mesh. So you could say that, just to get a more accurate, I guess, kind of view of what it is that you are clicking on to measure, this view could potentially help.
Okay. Maybe hard to tell, but that literally is the mesh view. So it may, you can tell by looking at the windows, it doesn't look so great there, but.
Right. There are different details.
And let's call that an advanced thing. So for the majority of Matterport service providers, it's most likely you're going to do measurements within the dollhouse view, the floor plan view, or the walk around view.
Correct.
Okay. Could we take some pictures, some snapshots that have those measurements and labels?
Yes, indeed. One last thing just to mention, we covered deleting and editing. You can edit the name, basically, which will add a name to this measurement if you want to do that.
Yeah, let's do that. So,
so let's go.
Okay.
And
are you double clicking, or are you just hitting the pencil and the pencil does that?
Just one click on the pencil itself. One click on the pencil will let you edit that.
Cool.
So you can see, and then I hit return on the keyboard to enter. So now we have a label, kind of a name to that measurement, as well as the measurement itself. You can also see that listed here in the panel. You can also notice this little icon. This is that's kind of a 3D, the dollhouse icon. So you can tell in which view you're going to be able to see these measurements versus these floor plan icon measurements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if I go to the floor plan, you can see that those measurements of this room are gone. I can't see them.
And would it be yet a different icon for the mesh view or the walk around view?
No, there would be the same icon.
The dollhouse view.
Yeah,
Okay.
the dollhouse icon.
Okay.
Correct. So we were going to take pictures with these assets. Let's go back in here. You can see, I see those measurements like this. And let's say I just want to, okay.
I did also want to ask you, in the bottom right corner is the resize full screen. Is that full screen within the view, or is that full screen for your whole computer?
This is full screen for my computer.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll go into the photos, this little snapshot icon here. And you can see that everything disappeared. My measurements are now gone.
But I'd like it with the measurements. So what happened? Now we got to think about what to turn on.
What we want to do is go to the settings icon here in the corner, tap that and choose this toggle to include the assets.
Great.
Okay. It keeps wanting me to edit that room. Yep. Okay. So at this point, I can go ahead. What just happened? I think we discovered a bug, Dan.
I'm glad it's just that it's happening to you, Amir, and it's not happening to me. So
this is one of those days. Okay, so enter. Now I can go ahead and click the snapshots button up here. Photo was captured. I'm going to go back into photos over here to see what was captured. And there it is. You can already see them in the thumbnail.
Awesome.
This photo has the measurements included in it.
Awesome. And then
that can be very helpful, especially if you need to include this information for clients as data to include in their.
And then just one last measurement, one last snapshot. If we could do the floor plan view.
Indeed.
Because we had some labels on the floor plan.
Showcase. We've got the floor plan here. It's going to make this a little bit more accurate by going back into measurements. I will add one more and just, oops, I keep doing that. Sorry, escape.
Is there an oops button?
Let's see here. Okay, try that again. Well, this is a good test because it keeps clicking where it should not be clicking. So I'm just going to.
Well, that's okay, because that's going to happen to us, and so we want to know how to recover too. So short of deleting it, I can grab the.
Yeah, it's okay if it starts that point. I clicked here, you saw that, but for some reason it placed the little dot here.
And I'm guessing that that's something to do with the mesh view, that the data.
Now we're in the floor plan view, so I don't know that it would have to do with that. I'm not sure, but it's interesting. I'll definitely bring it to the attention of the QA team, and we can look at it and
cool,
fix it. So once I get out of the adding mode by hitting the escape key on my keyboard, as we previously mentioned, I can go ahead and use my mouse to grab this and move it down. Come on. Don't want that. I'm going to come here. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and grab that snapshot. Okay, and zoom in a little bit. I'm just scrolling the wheel on my mouse and grab that snapshot. Snapshot has been saved. Go back into my photos and there it appears. Click that and there we are.
Awesome. You have a 360 view on the left. Can you drop measurements in a 360 view?
You cannot draw measurements in a 360 view. The reason is because, again, as I mentioned before, you are measuring the mesh. So 3D data is 100% necessary. You can't do measurements without the 3D data, and that's why we can't really take measurements with 360 views.
Okay. And then how about labels? Can you drop a label into a 360 view?
You should be able to drop it on top of the 360 view, but not inside. Again, labels are only something that you see in the floor plan view. So in this view, you're not going to be really seeing the 360 itself. You're just going to be seeing this pin.
So what would I see if I am in floor plan view? Maybe we could exit just for a second here. Go to the floor plan view.
The floor plan, yeah, okay.
And
you mean out of the edits?
yeah, outside of the pencil to go back into the preview.
Let me just refresh here. Something very odd is going on. Mm-hmm. There we go.
Yep. So if I go back to the preview mode, if I go into the floor plan view, will I be able to see that 360 view? And so I could have dropped a label underneath the bubble right there underneath the 360 view that said patio.
To indicate, yeah, sure, we can get label, hit add.
But if I do that,
there we go, and okay, so there we go.
But if I wanted to put it under the bubble, I should be able to drag it.
I'm not. Whoops. Never tried this, Dan. We're in uncharted territory.
Well, maybe I would drop it in the dining room or the living room and then drop it off.
So you can't. I can't. I'm unable to drop it anywhere that is not mesh. So as soon as I try to put it over this black area, you can see it's got a little circle with a line through it, kind of that do not enter icon, not allowing me to drop it here. I can drop it directly on the pin. That may be a little bit distracting.
Got it. But I don't see the 360 view. It disappeared on us.
It did, and that is possibly another bug. Let me see if the 360 view is still in there. Nope, it is. It was completely eliminated from my my floor plan view. I need to place it back.
Well, it may be that you put the label on it when you deleted the label. You might have deleted.
Oh, I may have accidentally. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bug. I think you just literally just deleted it when I asked, could I put the label a different way? So it needed some data in order to put the label on top. Can't drag it to some place that there's no imagery. I guess that would be the shorthand.
Right.
All
so
right.
I can put it right there.
Awesome. And then you could come out of that, go back into snapshot, take a snapshot and have that.
Right.
And for extra credit, Amir, could I include that shot in the highlight reel?
You can include the shot in the highlight reel. However, in the highlight reel, it won't have those assets. Those assets are downloadable, but you're not going to see them as you're walking through the highlight reel.
So
don't measurements. Let me see here. Measurements. You know what? With the new showcase, it's possible.
So I'm just curious, if I wanted to put in the highlight reel the measurements and the labels, could I do that?
I would need. So let's see here. I would need to see, because I'm just thinking a little bit here out loud. I believe there was something that, and I don't know if this is out yet, that does allow measurements in the highlight reel, or to be visible at all in the preview mode. Okay, so when I go into preview right now, those measurements are gone, and I believe let me go into the settings here, into advanced. There is yet no option to include measurements like you can labels.
Mm-hmm.
So I can include labels and have them visible in the highlight when a visitor is touring the highlight reel, but not measurements. So the measurements will not be visible to visitors.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying that. Maybe you could take it off screen share. Unless there was something, I think it's time to wrap up the show. I think unless you had something else that you wanted to do on a demo.
That pretty much covers everything. Yeah, for today.
Good. Awesome. Thank you, Amir.
My pleasure.
So as I mentioned close to the top of the show, if you've just bought a Matterport Pro 2 3D camera, you've been trying to get ahead by watching this Matterport Workshop Training 3.0, but you don't have a model to play with, or you just got your camera, but you still haven't had a chance to unpack it and play with Matterport Workshop 3.0. If you're a We Get Around Network Forum member, between now and July 31st, 2019, if you'd like us to transfer for a We Get Around Atlanta Matterport space to your Matterport account, happy to do that just in the We Get Around Network forum. Just private message me and we'll go from there to get that to you. If you're not presently a We Get Around Network forum member, it's totally free. Join the forum. There's 50 plus membership benefits. That's one of the 50 plus benefits is that we'll transfer a model to you and you can start playing with Workshop now, even while you're waiting for your Matterport camera to show up. So Amir, thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. So we've been visiting with Matterport Marketing Manager, Amir Frank. All this week, Amir is giving us training on Matterport Workshop 3.0. We've covered a lot of ground, 5-part series. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 is today. Amir, do you know what you got planned for tomorrow? Part 4 on Thursday, June 13th, yes. 2019.
So tomorrow we have Matter Tags, which is huge, the highlight reel, and VR editing.
Terrific. So that sounds great. And then on Friday, we're going to do question and answers. And so join us again. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, join us at WeGetAroundNetworkForum.com. In the bottom right is the We Get Around is the WGAN TV show. There's a button there that says join the show while we're live. So plan to do that either tomorrow, Thursday, or on Friday. Thanks again, Amir. I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum, and you've been watching WGAN TV live at 5.